Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. Happy Wendy's Sauciest Take Wednesday, and hopefully you can hear us today. Because we tried this yesterday and you couldn't hear us, and it was terrible. I kept saying, "Why are you jumping? Why are you jumping?" That was what Brian Kelly was saying to the receiver during the Florida game.
I'm just looking at the comments, waiting to see. We can hear. All right, let's go.
Woo!
We're
All
back,
right,
baby. Yeah, that was frustrating yesterday morning, but it's good to be back live with you guys. The show feels better when there's people here. I don't know.
I agree.
I love you, but I love when they're there. So we have a lot to talk about. We covered a lot yesterday. We talked on the phone. We got portal stuff. Andy, I don't want to steal your job. Go ahead and do that. But I'm excited to get into the show today.
You know what? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, you need to lead the show every once in a while. This is an equal partnership. You need to do this. We need to let you drive.
Here's the thing about that. And somebody asked me about that. Like, I'm a 2 guard and I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Not everybody can be the point guard.
I don't feel like I'm a point guard, though. I'm more of a power forward.
Yeah. Well, you do a really good job of, if it's me, we just would never get to the segments and stuff. We would just be rambling. Like, you do a good job of.
I feel like more reps driving, you would get that. This is exactly what I'm dealing with my 15-year-old son learning to drive. Like, I'm scared to take him on the road. I've been having him go in the parking lot. My wife goes out on the first lesson with him, and she's like, "We're going on the road."
The first time I ever drove with my dad, I accidentally cut somebody off, and the person honked and flipped us off, and my dad ran or leaned over the driver's seat as I was driving and yelled through the window, "F you, he's learning." And I'm like, "Dad, how do they know that?"
Now they have the little magnets that they put on the back of the car that said "New driver, be patient," which I feel like that's too much information. I feel like you may as well just put "Carjack me" on the back, but that's.
But he was like, I got road rage on my first ever attempt to drive, and he was upset that they weren't patient with me. I'm like, "Dad, they don't know that. They don't know that I'm learning."
Exactly.
The blind spot's real when you that's the hardest thing to learn. I think when you first get there, it's like you think you look in the rear view mirror or the passenger side mirror and you can see everything, and you can't. And I learned that the hard way. The first time
and you're like, "Oh, my parents are joking about that. There's not really a blind spot. They wouldn't actually have a blind spot in a car." No, it's there.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of blind spots, we have a Zero Self-Awareness Award to hand out. So there's an Ohio lawmaker who has now presented a bill in the state, I believe, State House of Representatives. State Rep Josh Williams from Sylvania Township introduced the Ohio Sportsmanship Act on Tuesday. There's dots between the letters in Ohio, so I'm sure it stands for something. I don't really want to know what that is. But House Bill 700 would, quote, prohibit planting a flagpole and a flag in the center of the Ohio Stadium football field on the day of a college football game. This is the softest thing anyone has ever done, I think. Does Representative Josh have any idea how soft he sounds?
I'm not a big politics government guy. I don't somebody had to teach me what the 3 branches of government were the other day. But just as a naive thought, don't these people have anything to do? Isn't there a lot of stuff that needs to be done that is important? I'm
sure the state of Ohio has more pressing issues, but Josh is so soft that I'm shocked he didn't put into the law that if Michigan is up on Ohio State in the fourth quarter, you're allowed to pepper spray Michigan players.
You know what would be a good law in Ohio is if a Michigan running back breaks a 40-yard run in the fourth quarter, they're arrested moving forward. Yeah. So they could, because that's probably the only way they can stop it.
Solve all their problems.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. And honestly speaking, it's just the thing that I think is so funny about it, Andy, too, is that the game of football in general is just inherently violent. And it's if you want to stop from a brawl to break out, I guess I could understand that, but that at the same time, the entire game of football is one big brawl. So I just
well, here's the thing.
I don't really understand what these people are doing with their time.
If you don't want the flag planted on your field, don't lose. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Don't lose.
Yeah. I mean, I was at the Baker Mayfield game in Columbus.
Yeah.
And that was like the first time anyone did that, or like that was like the beginning of it, right? Like Baker started this.
Yep, I think so. I'm sure somebody did it years and years ago, but that's the most recent one that sort of launched it back into the zeitgeist.
I just remember thinking it was like 2016 or 17, and I remember thinking because the flag fell over after he planted it, and I was like, Baker, it's turf.
Imagine how hard you would have to plant the flag to get it to stick in there.
You could hurt yourself with your, your elbow or something.
Well,
but yeah,
here's the thing. Like, that's the thing about the trophy games in the Big Ten. You don't have to worry about a flag planting or anything like that in a trophy game because the players are so bent on getting to the trophy. Like, I remember I was watching Wisconsin, Minnesota this year, and when they brought Paul Bunyan's axe out, like you could see the Minnesota sideline, like, ooh. So Minnesota, and they won the game at Camp Randall. They had no interest in doing anything on the W because they wanted to go get that axe. So maybe that's what the trophy games. Maybe that was the point. Maybe that's why they go get Floyd of Rosedale.
You know what I do a lot? I think about if I were an elite level athlete at Michigan or Ohio State or Bama or anywhere else. And I was like really, really good, right? Like, and I was the star of my team, or I made a huge play or whatever, how I would act. And I think I would act just like these people. Like everyone's like, go act like you've been there before and, win with class and stuff. Like, do you know how insanely and insufferable I would be if I were like a good football player?
I have some ideas.
My entire football playing career, though limited through high school, was just offensive line. And offensive linemen don't get the flex very often. Like if you're a running back who breaks off a run or you have a huge pick or you do something that involves making a play on the ball that alters a game and you're going to get drafted and stuff, like the SID would never bring me out for media interviews. Like I'll tell you that right now. Like, cause like I actually think that like just in general as just a boilerplate take, it just like the frowned upon, like it's frowned upon to shit talk to me is so stupid. It's like, oh, we don't want anybody to say anything disrespectful. It's a game of football. Be disrespectful. Talk your stuff. You know what I mean? Like why? I just don't understand why everybody's got to be, oh, well, it's a great opponent. And, we're looking forward to the challenge. It's like, just like, if somebody sucks, they suck. Say it.
My favorite, though, is when somebody says that they think their team's going to win and everybody's like, oh, bulletin board material. I'm like, no. It's okay if you think you're going to win.
Do you know what is really good bulletin board material? Your draft stock. I don't know what, like, if it's just me, but it's just like if somebody goes, oh, yeah, well, they stink. It's like, what's going to drive a young man more? Trying to show up their opponent who was talking crap before the game, or a young man who wants to put tape out there to become a millionaire? It's like, I think everybody's already motivated as much as they can be motivated, in my opinion. I don't know if you buy into that stuff. Do you think that, like, if you say something before a game and it's bulletin board material, that you're more likely to lose?
No, I don't think you're more likely to lose. I think you're more likely to get made fun of if you lose.
Yeah, that's fine. And then around and around we go. Like, you always talk about how this is an entertainment product. And why are we trying to book?
I agree.
Why are we?
Well,
what's so crazy, Andy? And this is a weird take.
All right.
So, like, this is just me, and I know there's people out there that like MMA and boxing and stuff. But for me, like, I watched the Tyson, that gimmick fight. Who did he fight?
No, Jake Paul one. Yeah.
And like the buildup to actual boxing, to me, is more entertaining than the actual boxing. Like, I'll never forget, like, I went to the Kentucky Derby, I think it was 2015, and was outside drinking with my friends all day and was absolutely hammered. And then we paid like $200 each to go into a bar because the same night of the Kentucky Derby was the night of the Pacquiao-Floyd Mayweather fight. And like, if you remember the hype of that, like, it was
and the fight itself was boring as hell.
And then you watch the fight, and I'm just like, well, that sucks. And I kind of feel like every time I watch boxing, it kind of comes down to that. And it's like, but the one thing that boxing and MMA has mastered is the art of the pregame trash talk.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes everything more interesting.
And you can tell a lot of times after the fight when they hug, like, oh, all that stuff before was fake.
Yeah.
All of that was fake.
And, and I get that part of it's for the promotion, but could you imagine like if Will Johnson, well, he didn't play in the Ohio State game, but whatever. Will Johnson before the Ohio State game goes, Jeremiah Smith thinks he's a number one receiver. Yeah, we'll see about that. Like, why can't people say that? And if you lose, you get made fun of, but like, why is it frowned upon? Why is it bad sportsmanship? It should be part of the game. I would plant the flag on everybody's field. If I were on Alabama's team and we beat Mercer, I would plant my flag on Mercer's field. Like, that's who I would be. So,
well, I personally can't wait to see Alabama go to Mercer. I think that's going to be quite a day when Alabama rolls into Macon, Georgia. But
hey, listen, their athletic director is not too keen on scheduling big games anymore, so you never know.
There you go. There you go. Ari, it is a Wendy's Saucy's Take Wednesday, and we got some saucy takes. But first, we got a little transfer portal update. One of your favorite players that you followed as a recruit is now in the transfer portal. USC's Duce Robinson, wide receiver, but a big wide receiver, kind of a flex tight end-ish player. But Duce Robinson in the portal.
He strikes me as somebody who will go somewhere else and become a first-round pick and like a 10-year NFL player, doesn't he?
Well,
am I overstating it? I don't know.
Well, Lincoln Riley's offense is usually pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, he's young. Here's what I'll tell you. And I think I've said this either on this show or the last show I was on, but I went to the Elite 11 when he was a high school senior. And at the Elite 11, it's a quarterback camp that, if you're not familiar with it, where the top 20 or 25 guys in the country at the quarterback position go and compete in shorts against each other. But in order to compete as a quarterback, you have to have wide receivers. And one year, there was this kid out there that was just massive and running like a freight train and catching everything. And I was like, who the hell is that? And it was the athletic Antonio Morales was next to me. And I know Bruce Feldman had written a big thing. And he goes, that's Duce Robinson. I'm like, oh, okay. It makes sense now. Because it was like, even on the field with all these elite level quarterbacks, like he was the one that like was standing out to everybody. And like ever since then, when you think about how much a mismatch creating big bodied tight end who's as athletic as he is can do to an offense to unlock some stuff, like I was certain that he would be an elite level player in college. Now that hasn't manifested into reality yet, but I'd pay money for this guy. I don't know about you, Andy. At this point in his career, I'd back up a Brinks truck for him.
Yeah, because the question is, what was the usage? How did it work? He averaged 17 yards a catch. He didn't have that many catches. He only 23 catches this year. And so we're going to find out what is going on with the USC offense, I think, because it feels like a lot of the USC offense is going to be somewhere else next year. I don't know if it's all going to be the same place. That's one thing that our guy Pete Nakos floated is Miller Moss maybe bringing a convoy with him wherever he goes. And it might be some of these skill guys that come with. So we might have like a side-by-side comparison as of next year.
Is Duce Robinson just a receiver now, or is he a tight end?
I mean, officially a receiver. So Duce Robinson, there's another guy in the portal named Caleb Odom, who was a freshman at Alabama last year, he didn't do much at Alabama. But I remember being there in the spring, and like Jalen Milroe is super excited about him. He is a big receiver who you could call a tight end, you could call a receiver, probably would be that kind of flex tight end. But again, it's semantics. He's out there running routes. So Duce Robinson, Caleb Odom, kind of in the same boat. I believe Caleb Odom was a high school teammate of Julian Lewis. So I do wonder if maybe Colorado's in his future. Duce Robinson, though, also a baseball player. So he played baseball at USC. Possible he's looking to play both sports at the next school as well.
Yeah, during his recruitment, were people wondering if he would go to the baseball or the MLB draft? Like, it's not like he didn't just play baseball in high school. He was like a actual baseball like pro prospect. So, yeah. Do you want to have the what's going on at USC discussion now, or is your belly still full? You want to throw up the appetizers and get this out of there too? Like, I mean, we said spent $1,000 on a dinner the other night being wrong about this guy.
I don't know. Are we ready for that yet? Are we ready? Has USC lost enough at this point in the portal to feel ready for that? Because they do have some of the more like I know one of the more coveted portal prospects, Keyshawn Silver, the D tackle from Kentucky, has USC in his group of finalists. So, like, this is my question for you, Ari, and it may be too early to answer this. Will USC net out more talented or less talented at the end of this portal cycle?
Less.
Okay.
Well, I also
if
think
that's
too, that part of my calculus here is their awful signing day.
Right. Because they got 1 5-star. Why am I blanking on the D tackle who is who's reclassified? But then a lot of the guys,
the kid who committed on signing day.
Yes,
Jakeem Stewart.
That's who I'm sorry. But that is pretty much it as far as what they thought that class was going to be. And Hassan Longstreet, obviously. Hassan Longstreet, the quarterback. But if you go back to the summer, they thought that class was going to look completely different.
Yeah, and I think didn't they lose 10 blue chips?
Justice Terry, Drake Stubbs, like those guys were committed to USC at one point and ended up going elsewhere.
And you know what another thought process is too? First of all, I think Lincoln Riley's just done a terrible job recruiting in general since he got to USC. And I'd be genuinely curious, and hopefully one day I'll be able to have a conversation with him or somebody at USC about this. But like, it's been so bad in the state of California, Andy, I'm not even sure if it's intentional or not. Like, it's getting to the point now where it's like, does he have a line in the sand that is just like, we don't want California players, but we can't come out and say that just in case we do one day? Or has it just been that bad? Like, it's like they are ignoring the state. It's weird.
It is strange, and it looks bad, like when you go play Michigan and Mason Graham is dominating at Michigan, and Courtney Morgan, who's from California, who's now the GM at Alabama, was the guy who found him for Michigan. Now, I know USC tried to get Courtney Morgan away from Alabama, but they didn't get Courtney Morgan away from Alabama. Like, everything they've tried to do to improve the recruiting, and well, recruiting is probably the wrong word at this point. The player personnel situation, because we're talking portal and we're talking high school recruiting. Everything's not worked, and it feels like their talent level is going down instead of up. And I don't understand that.
2 points. One is, and I've thought about this a lot over the years, but like, getting 5-star prospects to come to your school is hard, right? But you know what's really important is your conversion rate on hits when you actually get them. And USC's conversion rate has been terrible. And I think they've gotten 4 5-star prospects in the first 2 recruiting cycles of Lincoln Riley's tenure there. Damani Jackson, the corner, he transferred.
He's at Alabama.
Malachi Nelson was either a misevaluation or just, not a good fit.
At Boise State.
And then Duce Robinson now's in the portal. That's 3 of the 4, and the other one's Zach Branch. And I think they probably are hoping they can hold on to him right now.
Yeah, I think their fingers are crossed right now for Zach Branch. So
you can't go first of all, I thought that USC, when I made that bet that led us to our beautiful dinner the other night, that they were going to be signing 5-star prospects like left and right. I thought that every single big time kid in California was going to go there. I thought that they were going to be California cool. I thought they were going to take away from Oregon. But instead, they've gotten their ass kicked by Oregon in the state of California, and they've tried to go outward to Georgia and Texas and places, and they've had some success there, but have had a lot of heartbreak too, because guess what? It's easy to get a commitment from a kid in Georgia. It's hard to get him to sign. So, like, I just don't know. Like, and the second point I wanted to make, Andy, is like, what do you cling to? Like, that's the thing. And I've seen Antonio Morales say this, and I agree with him. It's like, what is USC's identity as a program? Like, was it getting great quarterback, having awesome offense, and just being Oklahoma, SoCal? Or do they actually have a mission statement or a drive to beat? Like, what are they? I don't even know what they are.
That's the other problem, is like the offensive recruiting is not what it was either. Because I was thinking about this yesterday. It's not like Lincoln just used the players Bob Stoops left for him to succeed. He had it going at Oklahoma. They won 4 Big 12 titles in a row. Like,
yeah.
And they had good players coming in. Now, not good linemen, but they had good players coming in. And
they were beating Texas.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you want to make a case that the Big 12 wasn't as good, from top to bottom during those years as the Pac-12 and the Big 10 were the last 3, I could listen to that. But at the same time, too, they were still beating Texas, and they were competitive against Georgia in a bowl game, in a playoff game. So it's
right. Like they were competitive when they played out of the conference too. It wasn't like that. So it's not just that he took over what Bob Stoops left and didn't build on it. He did, but he hasn't built anything since he got to USC. You know, the beginning at remember how hot they were when they got to USC. When he got to USC, he gets Jordan Addison in the portal.
Oh, yeah.
Who was the Biletnikoff winner. They got Solomon Byrd, who is a very, a good contributor on the defensive line. Like, they got contributors out of the portal who were really good. Like, Jordan Addison was a first round draft pick, right? I know he's blowing up in the NFL right now, but they have not gotten the last splash they made in the portal really was Bear Alexander, and then that didn't work out. And I think we now understand that and why. Woody Marks was a great pickup in the portal this year, but like, there are lots of good running backs in the portal. Like, you should be able to find a good running back in the portal. I just don't. I just know. Does he not have the stomach for the recruiting that is required to win in the Big Ten? Because I think I believe he was leaving Oklahoma to not go to the SEC. I think he did not want any part of recruiting in the SEC.
Well, here's the question that I have, and I guess like it was kind of a debate at the time, and I think it's probably unequivocally not a debate anymore. But like, when you stack up the pantheon of program, like when he left at the time, did USC even hold a candle to what Oklahoma is and was at the time? Like, from a stature, I'm just saying, like a stature, brand recognizability and all these things, like, or did he take a huge step down from job to job?
Well,
like,
I'll be curious to see, like, how does he spin this if they indeed wind up netting less talent in the portal? Because he went into last season making excuses. He went into last season saying, I'm not a magician. Look at what I took over. And again, if you're in year 3, you don't get to say, look at what I took over anymore. This is a different era of college football. Like, that's no longer valid. If you're saying the same things going to year 4 that you were saying going into year 3, you're making, pre-making the same excuses. You've got a huge problem. So,
Andy,
I don't know what
the one thing that Lincoln Riley is doing at the moment that gives you hope that they'll be good next year?
Nothing. There's nothing that seems like they are going to get better. Now, if he goes in the portal and grabs a quarterback that wows you, maybe.
Why? Like,
I know.
That's the one thing they're supposed to be guaranteed to have.
Right. And they don't. And I don't know that Jade Mayava is that. And maybe Hassan Longstreet is. But if he is, why wasn't he your first choice? That said, Caleb Williams was also not his first choice. Brock Vandegrift was that year.
Maybe the key is being his second choice, but I also don't think that in year 3 of the USC build that they should be relying on a true freshman to be ready and good enough to play.
Year
right away.
4.
Yeah, year 4. Is it year 4 already? Jesus.
Yeah. It's not a good situation. It's not.
I hope you enjoyed your dinner, though. I
loved my dinner. Oh, let's talk about dinner. River, do we have those? Do we have those files, those videos? Yes. So this is the $325 tomahawk that Lincoln Riley's lack of playoff success or lack of getting into the playoff got me. For those who don't know, on the old show, when Lincoln Riley was hired at USC, Ari predicted massive success. I said it's a little bit harder than you think it is. And I said they wouldn't make the playoff within the first 3 years of Lincoln Riley at USC. And Ari said they would, and we bet $1,000 on it. Well, when they didn't make the playoff again this year, we went to Bourbon Steak in Nashville, and I ran up a tab so that Ari could pay off the bet. And that's the tomahawk. That's a Wagyu tomahawk. What you saw cooking on that rock was a Japanese Wagyu New York strip, I believe. This is the thing at Bourbon Steak, though. The fries. So instead of giving you bread, they give you these 3 buckets of fries. And one has white cheddar on it, one has Parmesan, and one has dill. This is so much better. So much better.
Well, I was like, at least, if I was going to spend, $1,000 on a dinner or a bet, at least you allowed me to partake in it. So that was nice of you. I also am happy that I was able to pay off a bet with credit card points. So that's good. And, you know, I'm happy that we got to have a good time. And River, the producer, was there. He said it was the best meal he's ever had. And, like, he's still a young kid. And, like, had, you know, treating him to his first ever experience was a joy, too. Watching him eat this. Because, like, the poor kid didn't even, he had the menu open. And they're like, what would you like? He's like, I don't know how to order this.
River ordered very well, though. He got the American Wagyu filet. It looked spectacular.
He didn't offer me a piece though, so we'll talk about that after the show.
Well,
I thought
you got a piece of my tomahawk, so
I thought that was one of the top 10 dinners I've ever had in my life. Maybe
it was spectacular. Yeah. They did a very good job, and the service was awesome. And we're not getting paid to advertise, but they were very good.
I want to ask the chat this because I ordered just about every side on the menu. Because they were only like $16, and I had to get to the 1,000 somehow. Well, I'm just saying, like
we got there. We actually went over, so
yeah, we did go over. Creamed corn. I saw people were making fun of me for that.
I was making fun of you for that while we were in the restaurant.
Why is that such a weird order?
Because it's what you feed a baby. It's not what you eat at a fancy steakhouse.
It's on the menu.
Because maybe somebody brings babies.
So what do you think of creamed spinach? Because you eat that at a steakhouse, don't you?
I don't order it at a steakhouse.
I don't understand the like.
I'm a veggie side guy. I like the broccoli. I like the Brussels sprouts, or I like the serious carbs, like the steak fries, or the mashed potatoes.
I ordered 4 sides:
and cheese,
macaroni and cheese, whipped potatoes, pork belly fried rice, and cream corn.
That was awesome.
So, like, I don't know if you have a problem with cream corn, but come say that to my face. Like, if you're in the chat right now, like, by the way, it had like some like.
Hey guys, I said it to Ari's face. He didn't do jack shit about it.
Chili flakes on the top of it. It was delicious. And Brussels sprouts give you the best or the worst like gas. Like I like Brussels, but I always feel like crap after I eat them for some reason. Maybe my body just doesn't agree with them.
It's your body's just not used to healthy food. That's all it is.
Yeah,
although the way I like Brussels sprouts, they're not healthy. So, all right, I'm hungry now. I know what I might have. This might be a Wendy's Nuggs kind of day. You've had Wendy's Nuggs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new Saucy Nuggs. Take the crispy and spicy Nuggs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, or garlic parm, or the hot versions of all 3 of those. This might be a hot garlic parm kind of day. Or if you're a real heat seeker, try the spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature Saucy Nuggs. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the Nuggs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you have never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's. Now, Ari, it is a Wendy's Saucy Nug Wednesday, and it is time to deliver our sauciest takes, and the chat will decide who had the sauciest take, me, you, or River. Mine is a little different because, well, yesterday we learned about the Bill Belichick Bible. Apparently, the North Carolina Bill Belichick smoke is very real, but Bill Belichick has some demands. Now, every coach, when they interview for a head coaching job, has a Bible. You can call it a Bible, a manual, whatever. They all have a book, essentially. I had someone tell me that Ed Orgeron's book was 48 pages, I believe. There have been some that were 100. There was one guy who interviewed for a job in the NFL who didn't have a book on paper. He had it all in his head, so he just put a ream of paper through a 3-ring binder and pretended that there were words on it, but never actually opened it to show the people he was interviewing with. But Bill Belichick apparently
did he get the job.
Yes.
Those people usually do.
Bill Belichick apparently has a 400-page Bible that lays out exactly how the organization would be structured, how much it would cost to pay each person in the organization. Now, my question, though, if we're talking about the Bill Belichick Bible. What are the 10 commandments of the Bill Belichick Bible? So I took a guess at them. Let us enumerate. Thou shalt have no other coach before me. We are never interviewing an assistant. The NFL makes you interview assistants, makes you make them available. We'll never interview an assistant. If Bill Belichick is North Carolina's head coach, it will be Bill Belichick. He will be the only person talking. Number 2, thou shalt not make too frequent NIL demands. This is the part I think is interesting with Bill Belichick because obviously he's more accustomed to the compensation structure because he's been in the NFL. The difference is in the NFL, you know when everybody's going to be a free agent. In college football right now, the way it exists, you're a free agent every day. I can imagine like a player comes in for the second time to ask for more, and Bill's like, "You're out of here, done."
Dude, these are good. Keep going.
Number 3, thou shalt not take playing time for granted. That just means practice hard. I think that's fairly reasonable. Number 4, remember special teams and keep them holy. This is a guy who will mumble out a 3-word response to most questions, but if you ask about the long snapper, he will talk for 15 minutes in the most eloquent of terms. This guy loves special teams. I guarantee you his special teams units would be fire if he was a college football coach. Number 5, thou shalt respect the snap count. May Bill have mercy on your soul if you false start. These are self-inflicted wounds. Our team is not having self-inflicted wounds. Number 6, thou shalt be the most prepared. Number 7, thou shalt never be satisfied. Number 8, thou shalt find all advantages in the rule book.
That's a good one for college.
A Bill Belichick trademark. Whatever we can do, if we can manipulate the clock, whatever, we're going to do it. Number 9, thou shalt stay off snap face. Or my face. He's used them both. He uses them interchangeably. And number 10, of course, which if we did the George Carlin version of this, where George Carlin reduces the 10 commandments to like 2.
Yeah.
This would be the only one. Thou shalt do thy job.
Do thy job. That's funny. I thought your column nailed it today.
It's the Van Halen M&M's rider. That's what it is. Like, for those who don't remember the Van Halen rider, like in the 80s, when they did a concert, they had a thing in their contract, and buried in it, like page 40, it had a little list of snacks that they wanted in the dressing room, and it said M&M's, no brown M&M's, and in like all capital letters. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, what divas? I can't believe they try to get away with this." And then in his autobiography, David Lee Roth explained that it wasn't like they were trying to be divas. That was actually a test because they had like 5 semis worth of equipment that they were bringing to these concert venues. And it was lights and stage setup and pyro and so a lot of electrical stuff and dangerous stuff. And basically they would walk into the dressing room, and if they saw brown M&Ms in the bowl, they knew they had to check everything else because something may happen that may ruin the concert, or something may happen that might injure somebody in the band. So they knew to double check everything. If they went in there and saw no brown M&Ms, then they could feel pretty comfortable that they got that everybody read the contract and did it exactly right. For Bill Belichick, he's saying if I'm going to do this, you have to be serious about college football. Like, you have to be serious about winning at football in a way that North Carolina has never been serious before.
Yeah, and it's almost like you are getting on the same page from an administrative support standpoint before ever putting yourself in a position where you could disagree with them, right? Like, I wonder if you asked Mac Brown in an honest moment, if we had him on the show right now and said, "Hey, do you think North Carolina gave you and your players everything you needed to succeed?" I wonder what he would say. I've got a sneaky suspicion.
He would say no.
I think I know.
Every coach would say no, except maybe Nick Saban. Like,
I don't know about every coach. There's a lot. Of
and Nick Saban probably would find some things that he thought they could do better too, even though they got almost everything they wanted.
I think if you were the head coach at Georgia and you said no, you're an asshole. Like, there are certain levels to this. Yeah.
Ronnie in the chat says it's hilarious that Belichick thinks building an NFL-like program in the NCAA is some novel idea. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is Bill Belichick demanding that they treat football as seriously as some of the schools that actually try to compete for national championships.
Yeah.
And this way, if they don't, it's easy to say no. It's an easy test. Like, I can be successful here because you're going to give me the resources to do it, or you've told me you're not giving me the resources, so therefore I do not think I will be successful, so I'm not going to do this. Now, the other piece of this, Ari, is there is a power struggle going on in North Carolina between the Board of Trustees and Athletic Director Bubba Cunningham. The board chair, John Pryor, has been trying to kneecap Bubba Cunningham for months now. And he's now, if this falls apart, essentially succeeded in kneecapping him, because the board has been kind of pushing the Belichick part of it. Bubba Cunningham was looking at more traditional hires, and the more traditional hires were like, nah. John Sumrall was a candidate, decided to go back to Tulane. Matt Campbell wouldn't even take a meeting with him, like, because they saw the dysfunction and they don't want any part of that. And if Belichick falls apart, now all the fans are going to think, well, you could have had Bill Belichick and you messed that up.
Well, and other coaching candidates. And other coaching
Yeah.
candidates too, right? Because if Bill Belichick doesn't think that they're committed at the clip that they needed to be committed to, then what does that message say to the other candidates of the job? Like, that's the other thing too. Yeah. So, like, I think that North Carolina is limited to a certain degree in the NIL space, and if they are, then this is kind of a complicated matter. But I also think too that, like, I like the fact that there's at least somebody who has a 400-page manifesto. I want to play a Would You Rather with you. Would you rather read Bill Belichick's or Connor Stalions? So
I asked this question to the folks on Twitter yesterday. The poll is still live if you want to go vote in it on my Twitter feed. But let's see what the results are, because Connor Stalions was winning for a while. I think Connor's is going to be a little more esoteric. I think Bill's is going to be a little more nuts and bolts specific, because he's lived it. And like every single thing that's in Bill's, it's like there was an incident that caused this to be in here. There's a story behind every single one of those.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting question. I think I'd rather read Bill's if I had to pick one.
Because you might learn more than from the other one, right?
Currently, and I'll re-up the poll, but currently Connor Stalions' manifesto is leading 57% to 43%, but it's polling pretty close.
Well, the thing that is interesting is that I feel like Connor Stalions was kind of viewed, or at least presented, as a psychopath. And like, I guess like the documentary that they put on Netflix, whether you liked it or not, kind of just explained that he was just kind of like a go-getter who was like doing everything in his power to be good at his job, and like sleeping in his car at like rest stops and stuff. Like, so if it is just like a big Bible of prospects and recruiting territories and all that stuff, it would be interesting to see how he thinks the Michigan job should be approached. But like, who do you think has a better key on how to build a football team, like Bill Belichick or Connor Stalions? I don't know.
I would go with Bill Belichick. At Goat Dog in the chat says he has experience with people in their early 20s. Give him a chance. That's funny.
Have you seen the tweet that went viral last night? That was hilarious. And it was just a picture of Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, and it says, "Somebody tell me that this man can't recruit." And I thought,
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. So this is going to be fascinating, one way or the other, because it does. If Belichick says no, you are headed toward 2017 Tennessee coaching search.
They might want the Mac attack back, but it's a little probably too late for that.
Well, I texted somebody last night. I said, if it really mirrored the 2017 Tennessee coaching search, then what would happen at the end is Mac Brown would wind up as the AD and Joe Judge would wind up as the coach.
Is the 2017 Tennessee search the Schiano one?
That was part of it. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many layers to that one. So they agree to hire Schiano. The fan base revolts. They back out of that. They talk to Dave Doran. John Curry flies to California to interview Mike Leach, and then gets called home to get fired. They then install Philip Fulmer as the AD. He hires Jeremy Pruitt. It was a mess from start to finish.
Do you think that messed up coaching search for Tennessee led them to a better situation, or do you think if they hired Greg Schiano, they'd be further along?
I don't think Greg Schiano would have done well there. I think he would have had a problem in that. Like, Greg Schiano pays attention to too much stuff, but the same problem Butch Jones had. You can't do that at Tennessee. You have to be kind of elephant skinned. No, the reason things worked out at Tennessee is they hired Danny White as the AD, and he hired Josh Heupel as the coach.
Yeah,
Danny White historically has been good at hiring coaches. Like, think about who he hired. Lance Leipold at Buffalo. He hired Nate Oates as the basketball coach at Buffalo. He hired Scott Frost and Josh Heupel at UCF. Like, his coaching hires have worked. So yeah, he's kind of got a touch for it. Ari, before we go to your take, let's talk a little Panini. Best, most collectible sports cards on the planet. Visit PaniniAmerica.net to collect your favorite college and NFL stars. They got the Luminance series, which has your NIL autograph series. DJ Lagway, Arch Manning, Jalen Milroe. We got this one. We pulled this one. I think this is a fun one. This is a Rondé Gadsden II, who's a player at Syracuse right now, and he signs it OG2, which I thought was pretty cool. But we pulled that out of a pack. And Ari, I know you've got a bunch of Panini product that you are very pleased with right now.
I just took a picture of this one. This is 2024 Mosaic Travis Kelce, first off the line, numbered to 13.
Ooh.
And I'm thinking about either flipping this one into something else or sending it into PSA. So, yeah, I've got them all over the place. Andy was in my office. He can tell you they are everywhere.
They are everywhere. You even put your wallet in your drawer with them and then couldn't find it. So that's how valuable Panini is to you. But you can start your own collection. Visit PaniniAmerica.net to collect your favorite college and NFL stars. Ari, what is your sauciest take?
Oh, we're going to start with me. Okay. My take is that if Texas advances out of the first round of the CFP, and I believe that they will because their defense is going to make it really hard for Clemson to score, that the starter of their next game, their quarterfinal game, will be Arch Manning.
And this is a pull situation. This is not a necessity situation, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not predicting somebody gets hurt. I'm saying, buddy, you watch the game.
I said the same thing you did. It was because, and this is what we've talked about. Like, if you're going to bring Arch Manning in to run the ball, which they actually did in overtime, that was the only time they did that. The other time they brought Arch Manning in, they snapped it through his legs on one of the coolest trick plays you've ever seen. But
as Texas's offense is constructed right now, is it explosive enough to win the national title this year?
I don't think so.
And when do you think that will become apparent to Steve Sarkisian?
Well, but I don't know that it will, because I think he is in for a penny, in for a pound here. And we can say this really easily because we're not the ones coaching the team and we're not the people dealing with the players. It may be that Steve Sarkisian feels like this is the best choice for the team, and that you ride with the guy that is your guy.
Yeah. Well,
but he's been very clear about this from the get-go, that Quinn's the guy. And so I don't see him going back on that now. I think he's in.
Well, here's the thing about that is obviously he knows more about Texas's team than we do, right? Like, and it's possible that maybe we're overestimating how good Arch Manning is at the moment.
I think that's the other piece of it. We've got a very limited sample size with Arch.
But here's my take on this is that if Texas gets into a position where they're scoring 13 points or 17 points against good defenses as they continue to advance through the playoff, it's only going to get harder to score. And I guess you maybe could make the case that they were in a good game with the best defense they would face. But like they could end up playing Oregon or Ohio State's defense in the Final Four. You know, like eventually they're going to get to another Georgia-like defense before they get to the national title game, even though they're on the other side of the bracket. And Steve Sarkisian has already shown us through action that he believes that Arch Manning brings something to the table that Quinn Ewers doesn't.
Right.
And even if he is 10% worse passing at the moment, if he gives you the extra element, which is a elusive quarterback who can run and escape pressure, I wonder if Steve Sarkisian at the time. And by the way, I just want you to know, these are the saucy takes. I went for the spiciest one today. Like I really went for it. Like, I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but
yeah,
like,
this is the ghost pepper. I think we'll see what River brings to the table, but this may be the ghost pepper here.
But I think that like there will be a point in time in this postseason, and maybe it won't culminate in Arch Manning starting, but maybe it'll culminate in Arch Manning playing a lot. Like, I think that like they're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
To get the running element at the quarterback position to open some stuff up, because they lost on Saturday because they couldn't score. And they ended up scoring a touchdown at the end in the second, was it the fourth quarter, that one crossing route slant that he took to the house. But like, they have good enough. And here's the other thing too. And maybe I think the running backs have been fine this year. But they lost. Like, I think people forget how much talent they lost with CJ Baxter and
they had some injuries in preseason camp that put them behind the eight ball there.
Was basically decimated. So if you don't have an explosive home run hitter that's going to take anything to the house at a given time at the running back position, which I think they've had consistent solid play. I don't think they've had explosive home run play.
Yeah.
You need to put yourself in a position where you can put defenses off balance on the ground. And I don't know that Texas is in that position, and Arch Manning might be the best. They already made a package.
That's what I find so interesting about that, because if you're going to use him as the designated runner, it's not like the Tim Tebow 2006 Chris Leak situation where Leak was so much more comfortable with the whole playbook, better at running the whole playbook. And so you use Tebow situationally until you could build more of the offense around him. Like, Arch knows the whole playbook. Arch has started a couple games already in place of Quinn Ewers. So when he comes in, he can do everything, and the whole menu is available to him. But again, and you brought this up earlier, it may just be that we don't see them practice, and that Quinn is just better in practice. Yeah. And that's why Steve Sarkisian has remained as faithful as he has.
Yeah, except when he wasn't. That's all. He's remained faithful in the starting on the depth
except for
chart.
the Georgia game. Yeah, the Georgia game was the one where he brought Arch in because nothing was working. Now, nothing worked with Arch, too.
I know what's going to happen when nothing's working with the national title on the line is what I'm saying. That's the whole point of my point. That's like the genesis of why I think this.
Yeah, and I'm not sure the Clemson defense is good enough this year to cause that.
But if Texas beats Clemson 17-3, I think that could still. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think they're going to beat Clemson regardless.
And then you get the Sam Levitt and Cam Scattaboo in round 2. They may be able to score a little, and then you got to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it won't happen, but I think it's worth of the discussion, because we did spend some time last week talking about the package. And Arch Manning came in and he snapped the ball through his ass. But other than that, they didn't really do anything with him. So
you're still amazed at how that happened. Like that it does feel like a magic trick.
I've watched the replay 10 times, and I don't know how it didn't go through flesh.
It's a good center. It's a good center.
It's electric. That trickery. It's like, that breakup scene. They fool you with trickery and then strike your throat before you even know you're in a fight. That's what that was.
They did. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. But yeah, I am curious because they didn't use the Arch package as much as I thought they would in that game. And maybe the situation just didn't present itself that often. But
I know we haven't done predictions yet, but I like Clemson in the points. I'm just putting that out there right now.
I understand. Hey, a Monday show, by the way, is going to be our pick show for those first round playoff games. We also got bowls. Like, life's coming at us fast, Ari.
I know.
We got bowl games like next Tuesday.
We're going to be flying to Indianapolis a week from tomorrow. In 9 days.
Friday.
Yeah, a week from Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be spectacular. It's coming fast, everybody. I may be losing power, by the way. There's a hellacious storm going on. So if I disappear, don't worry. It's just because lightning struck very close to my house and knocked something out. But
if you disappear, do I've got to take the wheel? Is this like
you do have to take the wheel? Yes.
The heavens above testing me if I could be the point guard. Is that what that is?
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, before I get knocked out by lightning, let's talk about PrizePicks. Best daily fantasy game in America. Download the app, use the code Staples, play $5, get $50 instantly. This week, you got an almost free Patrick Mahomes square if he throws for 0.5 yards. So if he throws for a yard, you win that square. And the way PrizePicks works is you're picking squares. You pick at least 2. The more you pick, the higher the potential payout. So that Patrick Mahomes square is there for you if you need it. Army Navy's this week. Bryson Daly. So I was looking at his passing number. His passing number for this game is 63.5 passing yards. You think more or less. He threw twice against Tulane. They really could have gotten away with throwing 0 times, but he threw twice for 17 yards. He has gone more than that number quite a few times. He did it against UTSA, did it against East Carolina, did it against UAB, did it against Tulsa, did it against Rice. But if they're humming the way they want to, they're not going to have to throw that much. So you have to decide how successful is Army going to be. The more successful they are, the more likely you're going to go less than on the passing yards and more than on the 127.5 rushing yards for Bryson Daly. So you've got to make those decisions. PrizePicks, by the way, not just college football, though. They've got the NBA. They've got the NFL. The NFL, you've got your free Patrick Mahomes square, or 99% off Patrick Mahomes square. And then the NHL, basically any esports, anywhere someone competes, PrizePicks has squares. Download the app, use the code Staples, play 5, get $50 instantly. All right. Producer River, we need your spicy take. The sauciest, spiciest take you got.
Hey, before you do it, River, real quick, I'm very amused by people who are watching this behind and just going, "Oh God, cream corn!" Like an hour into the show. Okay, go ahead.
The poll, by the way, I put a poll up. Is cream corn a good side? 101 votes, 56% no.
Only 56%?
That's like unbelievable.
How many toddlers are voting here?
Could be a lot. Could be a lot.
Did you try it, River?
No, I didn't try it. I wish I did.
I'm the only one who ate it.
I didn't touch it. I wasn't wasting calories on cream corn.
All right. My saucy take is that Penn State will win its first 2 CFP games. That means
I feel like that's regular garlic parm. I mean, they're going to be favored in both of them.
Yes.
Those are just the Wendy's nuggets. That's all that is.
Right. That's not even you got the original Wendy's nuggets with no sauce. You just got
the crispy nuggets. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it would be saucier, and then I went and looked at the odds of it. Penn State has the second highest odds to make the semifinals.
It's interesting, though, River, that you bring this up, because this is a point I've been making. And somebody got mad at me in the chat the other day for saying this, but most people, I would think, agree with me. I feel like Oregon got punished for winning the Big Ten title game because Penn State got the easier path to the semis. Now, Oregon, but I want to, Ari, you're more of a gambler than me, and you understand the numbers. Is it less likely that you win 2 games than you win 1?
Well, that's a fact. It's less likely that because you're exposed twice.
Right.
But also, too, like SMU is good. And
SMU is good. But Boise State is good.
I know. So you have 2 good teams. And I guess the question for you is, like, if you were playing a video game, would you rather play the hardest final boss once or the middle final boss twice? That's what I'm at. I mean, that's what it is. So, like if Oregon, we're talking about Penn State here, so we're viewing it through the Penn State eyes. Like, Penn State does not have a great track record of winning big games. And both of these are big games. And the column that I wrote on Sunday for On 3 was about this. It's like James Franklin hit the lottery with the draw, but now he's got more pressure than he ever could have imagined, because if he loses the SMU game, people are going to go ape shit. Like, it's an expectation. And like, we're joking with River that like it's negative spice and that it's crispy nuggets, but it's just like, could you imagine if they don't do it? Like, they're expected to do it. And that's the scary part. But like, if Oregon, like, think about Oregon or Georgia or something playing these 2 teams, you might actually think it's like, I don't know. Oregon played Boise down to a point, so maybe it's not harder.
Right. We've seen it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So on FanDuel, to make the semifinals, you've got Penn State at -184, and then Georgia and Oregon, both who have buys, are at -136 for Georgia and -138 for Oregon.
Yeah, because those are just the games those just their odds to beat the team they're playing.
Yeah, just the odds to beat them.
Because I actually think if Notre Dame beats Indiana, that's potentially stylistically the toughest matchup for Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hold on. Let me look up the odds for just like Penn State's money line against SMU. SMU, Penn State is minus 325 to win the game outright. So like there's the difference there. So like if they're gonna be minus 325 in the first one and then minus probably 250 or 225 in the second one, then you add it all together. I mean, like everything with this gambling stuff is just math, right? Like I don't know.
Right. And that's why I asked and why there is a little tiny element of spice to Rivers' take is you are exposed twice here. We do have the situation where, you have the Penn State reputation, the James Franklin reputation.
I'm scared for him. I don't know about you. Are you? I'm scared for him.
Well, I am too. Because that's going to be bad. Like, okay, let's pose a question, and the chat, feel free to answer this one too. Worse reaction by the fan base. James Franklin loses to SMU. Ryan Day loses to Tennessee.
Well, Ryan Day.
Really? You sure about that?
I mean, they're already out on him, it feels like.
Already?
Penn State fans are out on Franklin, too. I
mean,
you
that's what I'm saying. This is closer than you think.
Yeah. I've seen way more. Sorry.
It doesn't really matter, though, because, like, James Franklin's contractually locked in. Like, there's nothing they can do about it, right? Like, they're still soon enough into their God contract that, like, he's their coach. Like, with Ohio State, like, there's some question right now about whether or not he will return next year. That's Ryan Day. So, like, here's the thing. Ohio State fans, and I think media, are calling, like, before the year it was national title or bust for them. Like, now it's like, think about it.
I think even Ryan Day said that.
If Ohio State wins the game against Tennessee and loses in the second round, failure. If Ohio State beats the first two teams and loses in the semifinal, failure. If Ohio State advances to the national championship game and loses, failure. So like there's so losing the first one would be like nuclear. I don't know how to say that word. I never have. Which one is it?
It's like it's spelled nuclear.
Nuclear. But at the same time, too, it's like, the thing that you have to understand about the Ohio State situation is that it's currently at level 10. Like they're already at the end of their rope. Like
they're already
out.
Yeah, like it's the Michigan game losing to this particular Michigan team.
It can't get worse than that.
Right. And that's the compounding factor here that I think that makes it probably still puts Day in the worst position if they lose that game. But I'm telling you right now that the Franklin situation isn't good if they lose.
People back in. People are hoping again. And like also too, James Franklin, I thought here's the thing. I know Penn State's not like a big moral victory place, and I'm not trying to be patronizing. But like somebody tweeted, Nick Baumgartner tweeted, "Oh, look, Penn State, James Franklin under-delivering in a big game again." It's like, I thought he over-delivered on Saturday. Like, am I alone in that? Like, I thought they played really well and like showed me something that I didn't even know they had.
Agreed. That was not the game I was expecting from them. And if they played like that against everybody else they'll win.
Everybody. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they have an opportunity to win some games. And like, listen, they lost by a touchdown to Oregon. They had the ball down 8 in the final few minutes of the game, and like there was like basically a pick 6 in the first. Like they had a lot of mistakes in that game. They didn't play a clean, great game and just come up short. They like shot themselves in the foot a lot too. So like Penn State, I thought showed a drive or a gear that I didn't know that they could shift to in that game. And I thought like, okay, well they lost. It's not a moral victory. They lost, but like at the same time, it's like if they would have lost 35-14 or something, or lost in the same manner in which they lost to Ohio State by not moving the football, like I'd be like upset alert from SMU. But like now it's like, no, they're going to beat SMU. So, and if they lose at home to a Texas team in a blizzard where the Fairfield Inns are $1,900 a night, like then like I think that you actually can make the case that it's going to be worse for Franklin because Ohio State and Ryan Day are already in like fan hatred hell right now.
It's fair.
By the way, you just reminded me. The forecast is probably fairly accurate now, or at least a little bit accurate this far out. So let's see what the old State College weather is for next Saturday. Now I'm very curious. We get to Friday. So Friday is sunny, high 36, low 27. So that's, if the next day is like that, I think, SMU is going to be cold, but for people who live in Dallas, that's not really that bad. So let's check the Columbus weather. And again, as we pointed out, Knoxville's cold too. So I don't think it's that big of a difference. High 37, low 31 on Friday. So we'll find out. We'll find out tomorrow what that weather is going to be. Producer River says it's snowing in Knoxville. So there you go. It's also snowing in Columbus today. One more. Doesn't matter because Indiana is also in Indiana. But let's see what the South Bend weather is for the game on Friday. South Bend weather, high 35, low 28, chance of snow. Possible sleet. Let's go.
You're driving from the airport, by the way.
Oh, you think the person who spent most of his life in Florida is qualified to drive in ice?
I don't care if we're more likely to get into an accident with you driving. We are less likely for it to be my fault if I'm not. So that's all I care about.
Guys, if you are traveling north on US 31 through Kokomo, Indiana next Friday, and you see somebody puttering along at 20 miles an hour, that's me. Ari's the one yelling at me from the passenger seat.
Also, like driving in State College up in the mountains during a blizzard, I've done it before, is an absolute nightmare. And I don't mean it like from how long it takes. It's like scary. So just be safe if you're out there. Like I have a few buddies here that are SMU fans who are going out to the game. And it's just like, landing in Philly and driving through the mountains in a snowstorm to State College is like legitimately like nerve wracking. So just be careful out there, everybody. It's going to be fun, but everybody says, well, if they don't want to go play in the cold, it's like, it's not the cold. It's like literally dangerous. So
the people who are used to it, I just remember the first time I ever, when I was covering Tennessee, my first job. So this is December 2000. Tennessee plays a basketball game at Syracuse. I land in Syracuse and I get a taxi from the airport to my hotel. And he's driving through these roads that are just covered in snow and ice. I'm like, how do you do this? Like, how are you not freaking out right now? I was like, man, this is Tuesday.
Yeah. I'll drive, Andy. You're my guy. I got you.
It'll be all right. I'll drive.
But we might need you to use your perks to get a bigger truck. Like if we can get like a.
Oh, I'm going 4-wheel drive on the old Emerald Isle if we need to.
And this is your reminder to do that if you haven't yet, because I have got no cars.
I have already rented the car. Don't you worry. I did it when we made all the reservations. I'm Ari's travel agent too, by the way. I don't know if y'all know that, but
yeah, and credential getter.
I hope you have all the ones for the games I'm not going to because I didn't get those.
I don't know. I don't. We'll cross that bridge.
Ari's going to show up at the Rose Bowl, but somebody was supposed to do this
for me.
Like, and for those who don't know, like if you're requesting credentials to a thing, all you have to do is enter your name, email address, and phone number essentially, and you press a button and.
I know it's finding where to type that stuff in. That's the problem. It's not the actual act of doing it.
Whether Ari covers the Rose Bowl or not is going to be a fascinating question. That's how I'm going to spend my January 1st morning is just taking odds on whether he's going to get in the stadium or not. Ari, tomorrow is my favorite day of the week. Dear Andy, dear Ari, we answer the people's questions. If you got a question for us, you know where to find us. At Andy_Staples on X and Instagram. At Ari Wasserman on X and Instagram. Also, Andy Staples on 3 at gmail.com. If you have a particularly epic question that you'd like to ask. We haven't gotten to answer a lot of questions of late because there's just been so much stuff happening. So I'm just going to load us up with questions for this show tomorrow because I know you guys have a ton of great questions to ask. And we'll do some transfer portal updates. We'll hit the news off the top, but then on to your questions. So send those in at Andy_Staples, at Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples on 3 at gmail.com. We'll talk to you tomorrow.